Hey guys! So I keep getting a lot of questions about layers, layered files, what the layers mean in Lightburn, amongst other things. And I'm sorry about these sunspots. It's just that time of day and I can't ever figure out, I guess I just made shades. Anyway, hopefully this little tutorial on layers will help you guys. So what I've done is I have pulled up one of my multi-layer files. This guy is a really, really cool looking jellyfish. So I'm just going to pan here. If you notice, all of these have different materials, right? So I'm using 6mm birch for that layer, 3mm cedar for that layer, 2mm mirrored acrylic that I want to engrave and then cut, and then 3mm black acrylic for my top layer. So this ends up looking really cool. I wish I had a picture of one, but I don't. But for our purposes today, I want to show you how these layers lay out in Lightburn and then what this cut in layers section of Lightburn is actually used for. So let's take a peek. If you'll notice, each one of these little guys is a different color, and each color you're seeing here corresponds to a color up here and a number down here. It may seem a little repetitive, but as you get used to using Lightburn, you will realize that these numbers, these letters, and the way this layers and cuts panel work is very important. And the more complicated your designs become, and the more intricate they become, the more this is going to help us out. So one of the things that I do like that we can do is say I want to see everything in my file that is 6mm birch. So I am going to hold my shift key and I'm going to click on 6mm birch 10, and it's going to highlight. This is the only piece for this one, but if I had multiple pieces, it would highlight all the pieces that are 6mm birch. Here's the thing. These names right here, I made up. I could have put Jesse's white birch, or I could have put my favorite color birch, whatever I want. So if you double click on this layer, you can name it whatever you want to name it. I tend to name it size and the material that it is. That way I know what I'm going to run it at, right? So my 6mm or 1/4 inch, if you will, close to 1/4 inch, right? I run that at 4 inches per second on 85% power. That's going to be very different than how I run my 1/8 inch white material. So 3mm white, or around 1/8 of an inch, correct, is going to run at 6 inches per second and max power of 70. Now this might be different for you. You may have everything here set up in millimeters, in metric. For me, I'm using the inches per second. I know I shouldn't. I should be using metric system because it's much closer and much more accurate, but for my presentation today, we're going to stick with inches per second versus millimeters per minute. So that is one of the cool things about having these cuts and layers, right? We can go down here. We can say, okay, I want this to be bright blue. I want that bright blue to be 3mm walnut, and I want it to go into a line. I don't want it to engrave, I want it to cut, and it's going to cut at 0.7, 50, and 50. I'm just making this stuff up. I just want to show you how to save one of these. All right, now I've saved it there, good to go. That's one way to use this cuts and layers panel. The other way, which is crucial when you are doing your engrave then cut. So I have this one piece here that is 2mm, or a little over 1/16 of an inch, thick mirrored acrylic, and I want to engrave the mirror and then I want to cut it out. So whenever we're engraving, we're going to engrave first, cut second. So up here I have mirrored acrylic, engrave, so that's set to fill, so I know it's an engrave. And then I have the 2mm acrylic, which is, what the thickness is of that acrylic, and it's on line, which means cut. So I've got my cut settings and I've got my fill settings. If I had this guy up here, it is going to cut first. and then it's going to engrave. What happens when that happens is when we cut something out, we have a little bit of space or a little bit of wiggle room, which means when it goes to engrave, it might not be centered. It might not look the way we want it to look, right? If it has a 1/16 of an inch wiggle room for that piece that's already cut out to move, then our engraving can be off. So we always want to engrave first. So in our layers, we're going to make sure our engraving layer is over the top of our cut layer. So that's 2 ways we can use this layers panel. I hope this helped someone today. Reach out if you guys have any questions.